Are we live? We're live. Welcome everybody to Status Quo, your home for gaming trends past and present. You know, as you should already know, because you should have listened to the first two episodes, I'm your host, Mars Vindicator, and I'm joined by my co-host, Queasy Crayfish. There it is.
See, usually you leave the space there, but this time you didn't leave the space, so I got faked out. See what I mean?
Yeah, it's because I'm trying to jinx you. And speaking of fake, let's get to our new segment. It's called Flake News. Not fake news, because we're not fake news. But it's called Flake News. And the reason why it's called Flake News is because I go to a lot of gaming sites and they post a lot of stuff like, Call of Duty 17 confirmed for E3. And it's like, who cares? You know what I mean? Like, I knew that, like on that Walmart list of the leaked games, they put NBA 2K19.
Oh, that's coming out?
Now, is that a leak?
Is coming out?
Is that a leak? Is that what we call leaked? Is that a leak, ladies and gentlemen?
That's a leak. That's a major leak.
That's trash. That's flake news. Who gives a shit? You know what I mean? So in this segment, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring out 5 news topics and I'm going to say them to Queasy Crayfish, and he's going to tell me, a quick blurb about what he feels, hopefully in one word, if he wants to. And he's going to tell me whether or not they're flake news. And then whatever we feel like is, newsworthy, something to stick around, something to talk about, a good topic, we'll discuss it for a second. And we'll do that before we get into our topics, which are going to be Dark Souls and the Souls series, how it's become its own genre, mobile games and how they're apparently taking over the world, but nobody plays them, and how fighting games have changed over the years. But first, let's get started. So flake news. So, Queasy Crayfish, are you ready?
I am ready for some flake news.
All right. So the first big news of the week, big, huge news. Everybody's, so excited. Battlefield 5 confirmed.
Oh, shit. I'm really excited for this game. I'm not actually. I haven't played a Battlefield game since 4, and before that, none. So, whatever. Right. It's fake Call of Duty.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
You can hate on me for saying that, but it's fake Call of Duty.
I know somebody that's going to be upset. Zilla. I know somebody's going to be upset. But, yeah, I mean, they always kind of fall flat. You remember Hardline? Yeah, me neither. All right. Next. Shenmue 3 pushed back.
Okay. Expected.
Exactly. So is this flake news or is this real news, or do you not give a damn?
I care about that, but, it was expected. I mean, we have seen virtually nothing from that game for, supposedly it's coming out at the end of the year. I mean, I guess I was expecting them to have a big splash at E3, which they probably still will, but, right. Or at least show something, some gameplay or something. But I mean, because they've just shown like almost nothing except some screenshots up to this point. So it was to be expected.
Yeah. I'm expecting them to show us some cover art, so we'll see. Only. So, all right. Next, Metro Exodus pushed back.
Don't care.
No, let's not get personal here. Now, can we really say Metro Exodus being pushed back is less important than Shenmue 3 being pushed back?
No, I mean, it's personally, I don't care because I haven't played any of those games. I guess they would be on my list of games to try out at some point, but
right.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know anything about the series. So, but yeah, to people that are interested in that, that's real news.
And I don't think Metro is a cult classic, or at least not like Shenmue. So, it is what it is. All right. Black Panther, DVD, Blu-ray, 4K, release this week.
Very nice. I was thinking I might actually buy that. There's probably that one and Infinity War, I think, since I have seen it now. I know I haven't updated you guys since the first episode, but I have seen Infinity War now. So I would say those two. And I mean, conveniently, they're the last two to come out, but they're probably my favorite Marvel movies. So
All right. So worth the purchase. And then last but not least, we got a Monster Hunter movie coming starring none other than Resident Evil mainstay Mila Jovovich.
This is flake news.
This is definitely fake news. I mean, Monster Hunter World is dope, but like, who really gives a shit about Monster Hunter in America? You know what I mean? Like, for real.
Yeah, that's shocking that actually they're already gonna make a movie out of that.
Yeah. I mean, come on, guys. Come on. No. No. That's all I got to say about that.
Just no, putting the cart before the horse, or however that goes.
Exactly. So there you are, ladies and gentlemen. That's your flake news. And what have we taken home from this? Go buy Black Panther. Nothing else matters. All right. So let's get started with our first topic of the day. And that is, so first of all, we have Dark Souls Remastered that's going to be coming out here pretty soon. I think when this podcast drops, it'll be coming out the week after that, on a Friday, which is wonderful. And I've heard some not good things about it and some other things about it, but I didn't play Dark Souls 1 the first time, so I'm excited to get it. And so we're definitely going to speak about that a little bit, talk to Creature Characters, but then we're also going to kind of get into the topic of the way that, seeing games like Neo come out, even games by the same developer of Dark Souls. We got like Bloodborne. We have the Surge, and even God of War a bit. Those games have kind of spawned their own genre. So we want to speak about that. But, so yeah, Queasy, are you hype? Are you on the Dark Souls remaster hype train?
Yeah.
Are you literally on the train playing it on your Switch?
I might. Well, see, the only thing about getting it on the Switch, because there's a lot of discussion online, this is like the new trend now with games, is like before the game comes out, you got to make 100-hour-long videos talking about how the game's going to suck.
Oh yeah, of course.
And, yeah.
How else will we know how the game's going to be?
Exactly. And so there's a lot of discussion about how the graphics have not been significantly remastered, and basically it's just like the PC version running with the DS fix and the 60 frames per second and whatnot. So that's kind of it kind of sours the mood in the lead up to the release, I feel like, but I'm still going to get it. I'm just undecided on which console to get it because I haven't actually played Dark Souls in 60 frames per second. So I kind of want to get it on the Switch just because like that would be cool to have it on your Switch. Just take it in the car, wherever you want to go.
Right.
But I also want to do 60 frames per second. So it's either going to be Switch or it's going to be PS4. But yeah, I'm excited for it.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm most definitely going to get it at some point. It may not be something that I run out and grab at launch, but I'll be interested in playing that to see, where the beginning of specifically Dark Souls, it's not Demon Souls remastered. Don't forget about that. PlayStation exclusive. But I definitely think it'll be cool to play. Listening to Queasy Crayfish, he always tells me that it is the best game in the series.
Oh yeah. Definitely. Well, you should play Dark Souls. You should play it.
Is it better than Demon Souls?
It's better than Demon Souls. It's
Demon
Souls is really good, but it's kind of, it's a little more primitive. Like there's just not as much variety of weapons and spells and stuff like that. And I don't know, Demon Souls is kind of its own beast, but yeah, if you're going for like the quintessential Souls experience, you got to go with Dark Souls 1.
Okay. And that, this is coming from the master, ladies and gentlemen, because the other games I mentioned, Neo, Bloodborne, The Surge, and God of War, you spend extensive time with all of those.
Oh yeah, I love this genre, the Souls-like genre, as well as the Souls game. Actually, I should say that I'm very picky about these games because I don't like Dark Souls 2 is hard for me to play. Dark Souls 3 I found kind of disappointing.
You played them a lot though.
I do. I still play them a lot because I like that kind of, I like, the struggle, the hashtag, the struggle
right.
of playing through these extremely hard games and getting your ass kicked over and over again. And, also the exploration, because these games always have really good atmospheric worlds, and I love like just exploring all the nooks and crannies of all these different stages and whatnot. So I think that's a kind of under appreciated aspect of these games as well. But yeah, I'm a big fan of the genre. I got Neo. I haven't beat Neo. I haven't beat the Surge yet, although I'm working on that on stream, right now. So
Tuesday nights.
So yeah, come watch me play the Surge. I might do Neo after that. Got to get these games, under the belt.
Right. So yeah, no, yeah, that's definitely dope. And so kind of like how we segue into this talking about the genre is definitely dope. How these games have basically spawned this whole genre of this very tough and well put together combat. Because I feel like 2 generations ago, when we had very popular third person action games, I almost feel like that was one of the generation defining genres at that point, because you had like Devil May Cry, God of War, Ninja Gaiden.
Mm-hmm.
And most of those games kind of dealt with this, like, like you would like kill things and then absorb some stuff. Onimusha had that too.
Right.
And, Onimusha kind of had its own sort of, more calculated combat. But Ninja Gaiden, God of War, Devil May Cry were definitely all about, super fast paced, they look dope, you're all over the screen, and that's kind of what those games are all about. And then like Dark Souls is just like the complete opposite of that, where, I mean, you can't even get past, like, if you never play one of those games, you're going to die 100 times on the first level. That's just how they work.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like everything you have to do has to be calm and calculated. You're not just going to get by with, blocking some stuff and then slashing. You have to really play it. And, I think that's just another one of the reasons why, that whole thing that came out about single player games are dead. Not only are they not dead, they're evolving. There's been new standards set in them, new features, new things. So, I'm definitely excited to see what other games come out. I mean, I didn't know if this was an actual Souls game. I thought it was, but wasn't like Deep Down supposed to be one of these?
Oh yeah, that game,
wherever the hell that is.
I've been looking forward to that game for 3-4 years or whatever.
Right.
That was a Capcom game as well. It got announced I think several E3s ago, or it could have even been Tokyo Game Show, I'm not sure. But and it looked really good. Like obviously it was probably some PC build that never would have run on a console, but it looked amazing, graphics wise, and it looked like it's that dungeon crawler, tough, just grind it out. It looked like something I would definitely try out. And unfortunately, we haven't heard word one about that game for several years now. So
right. So yeah, but I definitely think that there's going to be more of these coming. And it's even interesting to see, already popular games kind of take on this style, much like kind of how God of War did it. But God of War is definitely more on the outer fringes of it. It's not exactly like it, but it's close.
It took a lot from there. It took a lot. I mean, it's the combat went from being just crazy, exaggerated, comboing people and juggling 6 enemies at once up in the air and doing crazy moves to being very calculated. Like, you have to be sure about what you're doing. You have to be sure about your positioning. You have to know, where enemies are at in respect to where you are and everything. So I think it took a lot in terms of like the depth of the combat and making it more intricate, more complicated, more cerebral. And that's the best word for like Souls combat, is like cerebral. That's why I hated when it got to Bloodborne is kind of excluded from that because it kind of took it in a different direction. But Dark Souls 3, I feel like they took the cerebral aspect out of it a lot, because it's just R1, 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 panic roll, R1, R1, Estus, like it's button mashing basically compared to Dark Souls 1.
Well, damn. Well, I'll be excited to try that out. Possibly on the Switch. I'm not, the frames. I definitely could see why the frames would be dope, but Dark Souls, I mean, yeah, I need a reason to, disassemble my Switch into three pieces and throw it out of a window, while I'm in the car. So what better to do that than Dark Souls? So, all right. So, now, so we talked a bit about Dark Souls. That's definitely a dope, real game genre and, title. Let's talk about mobile games. So now this is a topic, that Queasy Crayfish wanted to address, because there's been some stuff in the news lately about how, well, not even just lately, I mean, just over the past, few years, about how big mobile games are, how important they are. I've seen, we've seen a lot of developers go and make mobile games. There's probably few big franchises that haven't had some sort of like mobile, game. I remember even back when I had like an iPod Touch, like years ago, there was like a Metal Gear game, there was a Katamari game, there's Final Fantasy games. Marvel seems to only make mobile games, which pisses me off. There's all types of stuff. So, but at the same time, the games that we're getting on mobile, unless they are like old game ports, we're not necessarily getting, The Witcher, here. So, or at
No,
least as far as
not.
I know. So, and even the games that are like that, those aren't, I don't think the top sellers, this, we're talking about Candy Crush here, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, well, there's been several articles within the past couple months because, of course, we're getting to probably, was it the end of the fiscal year or whatever recently, probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're coming out, and the one that I read, it said specifically the gamers spend 2.3 times as much money on mobile games compared to PC games, and they spend 3.6 times as much on mobile games compared to console games. And the reason I wanted to talk about this, because I feel like this topic goes into so many different areas. Because if you look at that data, and of course this is being presented from, I don't know where I read it, is like Forbes or Business Insider or one of those. These are people that probably don't play games, and they probably don't know a whole lot about the industry as a whole. So when they put out an article like this, it always has this air of like, oh, look at mobile games are taking over the world. And of course we hear every year, every time they come out with a new console, PS4. I remember before the PS4 came out, it was like, this is going to be the last console generation. Consoles are dead, this and that. And then consoles sell like crazy. Switch sells like crazy. Xbox One, not so much, but
right. It sells,
it does sell. They convince people
like
to buy multiple different versions of it.
Right.
PS4 selling like crazy. People buying, console exclusives are still a thing. So it seems
if
like,
you have a PlayStation,
yeah, exactly.
or Switch.
And so it seems like there's this, how should I put this? I mean, there's this disconnect where there's this idea that, mobile games are so popular, they're making all this money or whatever, but that should not indicate that they are somehow taking over the industry or something like that, because there's a difference between playing a mobile game and playing a console game. Obviously, if you look at the top selling mobile games, it's like Pokemon Go, it's, Candy Crush, it's all that stuff. I mean, there's some in there that are like those, I don't know what they're called, those like Game of War or whatever,
Right.
But like, these are
Call of War game,
Yeah, Call of Soldiers. Yeah, they're always like
Right.
some rip off of some existing thing, and that's kind of what they are. They're like these watered down versions of a console game or a PC game or something like that, and that allows a much larger player base to then participate in the gaming experience. Because I mean, Pokemon Go. I mean, I know you don't play Pokemon Go. I still play Pokemon Go. I go around. I drop Pokemon off at the gyms. I do all that stuff. I could, collect Pokemon. It's
Why? I play the real version.
right. I mean, I would too if I had like, 3DS or whatever. But yeah, it's just it's just fun. It's just something to do. When you're bored or whatever. Hey, I'm gonna check on my Pokemon and see what Pokemon are. You're at the mall. You're waiting for your girlfriend to get out of the bathroom or whatever. It's like
Right.
check Pokemon Go. Maybe there's a Pokestop there. Who knows? It's just a little side thing to do. And this is in games like Candy Crush. These are games that the 65-year-old working at Walmart bagging groceries who doesn't want to retire, she's taking a part-time job. This is the kind of game that she's going to play on her break. These are games that are accessible to people that would never have played a video game, would never have played God of War, or even the most simple console game. Like, they never would have played any of that stuff. And so the idea that, mobile games are taking over or whatever, I think is just ridiculous, because obviously the player base is just so much larger, because you're comparing a game that's basically on the level of like Tetris or Solitaire or something like that to, a console game that has the depth of The Witcher 3 or God of War or something like that.
Right. No, I mean, yeah, most definitely. It's just, it's like, well, and my thing too is like, because at first I was kind of like, but then like, now that you really like brought up that, like, the news article, especially, if they're going to sell it that way, gamers spend.
We have a special guest here. I'm sorry.
We do.
Jeez, just random.
Welcome to the show. But no, like, gamers spend such and such money on games,
Come here. Okay, this will shut him up. Okay.
Okay, wait, I'm gonna.
Sorry.
Let's put a momentum there. All right. Let me see. It's like, so, they want to frame the article like gamers spend so much, money on mobile games, versus console games. Right. But it's like, those aren't quote unquote gamers. You know what I'm saying? So that's like, yeah, that would be like saying, sneakerheads, are buying much more shoes at Walmart, than they are at Foot Locker. It's like, no, those are just humans buying shoes,
Absolutely.
Like, those aren't like sneaker people or, people that are in that group, these are just people buying shoes. So yeah, like, I think that if they were to actually do a survey where they actually like got people who, really bought a lot of games and then saw how much money they spent on those games compared to mobile games, I think that you would find a much different story.
Oh, absolutely. I think the whole mobile phenomenon is just way overstated. And I think people forecasting the death of consoles every single generation is also just way overstated. And I think consoles are going to be around. I mean, they may change and evolve, but I think they're going to still be around in some way, shape, or form.
No, they most definitely will. And the thing is, sometimes a lot of people hear you say things like, for example, like, so he said it's understated. Or it's overstated. I agree that it's overstated. Okay. But just keep in mind that, like, we're not saying that, like, that mobile games aren't big, like, that's not what we're saying, right. Because, like, for example, I used to live in Tokyo, and when I was there, I even almost when I was there, I feel like there was like this shift. Like, you would see like a whole bunch of DSs on the train, and then you started seeing like a bunch of phones, and a lot of that had to do with like Minecraft, and not that I would still see even like PSPs or whatever, but like I kind of noticed like more like kids and people like playing Minecraft. Now you got what, like, isn't like Fortnite and PUBG Mobile?
Yes.
So. There's going to be a couple games, and these games do matter. They are big, but, even if they found that gamers did spend, more money on it, it definitely would not warrant consoles being erased.
Yes.
Like, not by any means.
Yeah. They offer two, I think, very different kind of experiences.
Way different experiences.
And that's the more important story. When you see an article like that says, look how much money mobile games are making, it should speak more to the popularity of that experience and look how many people are doing this. But it doesn't take, I don't feel like it takes anything away from that other experience. I mean, that's still continuing, unchanged, really. It's not like God of War is making some kind of concessions based on the popularity of mobile games or something like that. Like, I feel like the two don't really, I mean, maybe in some ways they kind of speak to each other, but it's not in to a degree where it's like, oh, watch out for those mobile games. I mean, they're kind of their own thing.
Right. No, they definitely are, so, I think mobile games, they'll always be there. I play a couple mobile games. But yeah, but they're not console games. So as far as I'm concerned, end of story.
End of story.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we do have one more topic here, and this is going to be a dope topic. This is something that I, of course, want to talk about. And so we want to talk about another, kind of vast genre, but a more like specific actual genre of games. And that is fighting games. So what we want to basically talk about is just kind of how they have changed over the years, how they have, shifted in at one point in time being like, the top genre to now being kind of a minor, but, one that's always there, how the tournament scene works and all that type of stuff. So, well, yeah, first, Quiz, you have anything to drop on us about fighting games?
This topic, I mean, seeing the trailers and the early footage of Soul Calibur 6 kind of made me think about this a little bit, because it's just so weird the way, I mean, like the lead up to the launch of a fighting game now compared to back in the day where it was like, you would just get like a couple of trailers or whatever. And I don't know, there was a lot of like articles, I guess, about the characters in gaming magazines or whatever. But now it's like you get all these character specific trailers, character announcements. That's always a big thing. And yeah, they're like these mini little trailers that they can drop to like pique interest in the, in the game in the lead up to the release, or even after the release, if it's DLC or whatever. It's like Capcom did that extremely well with Street Fighter 4. I remember like before DeCapre came out, it was like that whole thing where like, oh, who is this mystery character? And, she's never been in or this, they didn't know it was a she at that point, but they've never been in a Street Fighter game before, and this and that. And there were people trying to predict who it was. And, and finally they dropped the trailer, and, it was just like this little, like interesting little game they do of revealing characters and who's going to be on the roster and everything. And I think that's really cool, but at the same time, I think it's weird that, I think it's unfortunate that they've gotten rid of the whole, the process of playing a fighting game as a single player. Cause like, I'm not real good at fighting games. I'm okay at like Soul Calibur. I'm like semi okay at Tekken sometimes, but, yeah, I'm not like a tournament level player or whatever, Mortal Kombat. I like to play Mortal Kombat, but I think it just sucks that like it used to be like when you get a new fighting game. I remember getting Soul Calibur 2 or even Soul Calibur 1, and just like the process of unlocking everything in the game was so much fun. And that doesn't exist anymore because everything's unlocked right out of the gate because it's got to be tournament ready, and you don't want to have people having to unlock all the characters, in order to set up, their booth at, Wednesday night fights or what's the next level battle circuit, so it's like these games got to be just ready out of the gate, and they got to be tournament ready. They got to be perfectly balanced. And so you end up with, the extreme amount of patches, constant updates to these games. And also, I feel like you get a really short lifespan on a lot of them, too. I mean, Street Fighter 4 obviously had a long lifespan, but even that went through different iterations throughout its entirety. But, I mean, like the NetherRealm games, like Mortal Kombat 9 lasted what 2-3 years. Mortal Kombat X lasted 2 years, if that. Injustice it's maybe 1 year. As far as like deep competitive play. And so it just sucks that there's not more stuff. I mean, not that I hate the whole like catering to the casual player and we got to put this like story mode in the game, like and of course because I just don't feel like they do it the right way. But it just sucks that like unlockables, the museum mode like in Soul Calibur 1, just like awesome stuff like that is stripped out of these games now, and they're just purely like esports stuff. And so yeah, I think that's a big shift.
Now I will say this, I definitely agree with you on that for the most part, and it's true for most games. But Injustice 2 is definitely an exception, and that was why I personally rated that as like my favorite fighting game of the year, even over Tekken 7. Partially because like Tekken 7, if you had been able to play it in the arcade, was already like years old. Right. But yeah, like Injustice 2, they really do a good job with their I can't think of the name of it. It's called like the Metaverse or something like that. And it's a very in-depth, like very long single player thing. Well, it's not even really that it's like this long. I think it's pretty much seems like it's infinite, because you just like go to these like planets and you do these different objectives, and there's like different things that happen. It's quite similar to how like the old Soul Calibur games would, like, especially 2, would like put you in like fights that had like, different, like different parameters or something, like this character moves fast or this character is slow, or you have a shorter field, or this is running from the sky. And then you get to unlock a whole lot of like armor and things. And they do it in a way that it's kind of like loot boxes, because you kind of get like random stuff, but but these aren't like purchased things. You unlock them, and to me that was really dope. And that was I played that game for a while, for like a couple months, and that was the only way that I played it. I actually didn't even play the story, which I heard was like very good. I like only played that mode. It's like the multiverse, and Injustice is the exception. So, if anybody is looking for a mode like that, I would definitely recommend playing Injustice. But at the same time, I also hope that other fighting game developers follow suit with that. See some of the things that Injustice did and why people liked it, and put that into their games. Because yeah, like Street Fighter 5, Street Fighter 5 added arcade mode, and like it's kind of cool, but the way that they just suck money out of you for DLC, because they'll do this, and then they were like, we added music packs, but I know that if they ever do release the soundtracks for any Street Fighter game, they're going to charge you money for it. They charge you money for like costumes, it's
endless costumes.
Everything. Exactly. You have to pay for everything. Tekken, on the other hand, is kind of like, they don't really like strip money out of you so much, but they also don't have that much, extra content. That single player mode was all right. It was passable, but it wasn't that dope. Injustice 2, though, definitely the exception. They definitely did it right. So I'm looking forward to how they'll do the next Mortal Kombat game. If Mortal Kombat 11 is going to be something that we see at E3, I'm hoping that they do have a mode similar to Injustice's multiverse, because yeah, it was just dope. It brought it did everything. And you have to talk about Arc System Works, because they are doing Fighter Z. They have the BlazBlue cross tag battle game coming out, the Guilty Gear games, and they, but they're kind of the same way. The games are dope, but everything is for the most part unlocked, or it's going to be DLC, and it's right out of the gate, and there's no huge single player.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're just strictly hardcore players, basically, for those.
Exactly. And another thing, too, about this topic that I brought up in other videos and past things is that we always say this, but truthfully, though, I think we're mostly talking about Virtua Fighter and Soul Calibur. Mm-hmm. Because we can't really forget that Capcom like pretty much never put good single player modes in their fighting games.
Right, exactly.
They almost never did. MVC 2 seems like an exception, but that was just easily done because there were so many characters.
Uh-huh.
When you have to unlock 20 characters, it seems like there's going to be a lot of content.
Mm-hmm.
But that was really all it was.
They had that bare bones like menu, where you would unlock stuff, and I think you could buy things in there too. But that was definitely kind of an illusion, but it was fun because there was all that mystery and all who was behind all of those question marks, on the character select screen. And that's kind of what I miss from these games like Soul Calibur. Just had that in spades, with all the stuff that you could unlock, and it's beautiful, and Virtua Fighter as well with the, and that's not to say that these games haven't done good things like, the Kumite mode and the offline ranking modes and, in Tekken and everything. And I think, Tekken 3 even, had pretty awesome single player content with all the endings and stuff. Cause like stuff like that was revolutionary at the time. And that was definitely like, you wanted to get all the endings. You wanted to see what was going on in the story because it was kind of an interesting, unique story.
We'll see now. Okay. But the thing with that though, on both of those topics, who's behind the question marks and then putting out endings. Is this even something that you could do in this day and age? Cause I didn't have YouTube. Obviously back then, none of us did. Well, and also, you could, it was definitely possible to like look up the information on who the secret characters were, but it just wasn't, everything wasn't so like news catchy and, everything wasn't popping up all over the place. Like you may look up a cheat code list and then you may see the characters' names, but you're like, who are those characters?
Mm-hmm.
Now I think a lot of that stuff would be impossible.
Right.
To tell you the truth. And
I think that goes just for fighting games in general too, because I like for me personally, some of the enjoyment is kind of stripped away from playing fighting games because like you have so much more knowledge of how good you can be in a fighting game from watching streams. Like I've watched a lot of Street Fighter and Tekken and stuff like that, competitive play over the years since Twitch really became big. And it makes you feel kind of, if you're not a top player, it makes you feel kind of inferior. And back in the day, I had no idea what my skill level was. I just thought if I could beat my friends that I was good, Right. And that counts for something, that if it's always good to feel like you're skilled at a competitive game. And so for me personally, like the rise of streaming and the rise of all this stuff and, people sharing, tech and, how to counter stuff online and how to fight certain characters and matchups or whatever. I think it kind of, for me, it just makes it less fun to play because I just know that like I'm not really very good, in the grand scheme of things.
I can definitely see that. For me, that kind of happens with games like Street Fighter, like a lot of 2D fighters. But, the thing with that though is that, I think that's another reason why I think Injustice 2 is good is because, playing that, I never felt like I was tournament ready or anything, but because they have those different scenarios in like the single player mode, if you beat those, you feel like you accomplished something, kind of similar to the way that you feel when you beat something in a third person game, like if the whole purpose of it is PvE, then there's not really that big of a thing. I'm sure there's some Dark Souls players or whatever who compare themselves, but for the most part, it's kind of rated on how well you can beat the game. Right.
Yes.
So with them adding that mode into it, it really brought that feeling back, and that was again, like I can't stress enough how well Injustice 2 did that. Like they did a very good job with that. And I'm hoping that, they continue with that in Mortal Kombat. It is, and so again, like things like Street Fighter. Okay. Guilty Gear. Okay. Even Tekken, cause Tekken only ever did what other people were doing. Tekken Force was kind of revolutionary, but honestly, after that, like then they added the ranking mode and the items just like Virtua Fighter did. So the game that is going to hurt me the most if it doesn't have modes like this is going to be Soul Calibur.
Mm-hmm.
Because Soul Calibur again was They were one of the biggest with that. If honestly, if you ask me, if not the best, if not the most notable in the past.
I agree.
Because I don't remember playing a fighting game with that much depth until I got Soul Calibur on the Dreamcast.
I agree. You know, and depth in terms of just content. I mean, that's, you know, people can quarrel about the fighting depth or whatever of different games, but definitely, yeah, Soul Calibur was the game for that. I mean, and it'll really suck if Soul Calibur 6 comes out and it's just this like tournament ready esports bait kind of game that's trying to you know, get Twitch views and to, you know, have a top spot at Evo or whatever. I think that's going to be a big miss. I don't think it's going to have the kind of staying power, because I mean, truth be told, I mean, you just can't compete with Street Fighter. You can't compete with some of these top games. I mean, they just have it on lockdown. I mean, even Tekken 7's been the most popular Tekken ever, as far as, you know, tournament attendance and viewership and stuff like that. But it's like, it's nowhere close to Street Fighter, and Street Fighter 5 isn't even regarded as like one of the better ones, you know, like it's a lot of people really don't like Street Fighter 5, but it's hard to compete with, you know, those established Capcom fighters. So if they think they're going to come out with Soul Calibur 6 and it's going to be this big tournament game and it's going to get all these views and, you know, people playing it on, you know, the Sunday at Evo, like I just don't think that's going to happen, you know. So what it really needs is that kind of the supplemental content. It needs, you know, unlockable artwork. It needs, you know, weapon master mode. It needs all that kind of stuff.
And I mean, you know, honestly, I don't have a lot of faith in Capcom, you know, some of these developers who do things like that. But honestly, I do have a bit of faith with Soul Calibur, because Namco has always been pretty good about, you know, doing their fighting games well. And, you know, Tekken 7, for example, Tekken 7 did not come out with the same type of flaws that Street Fighter 5 came out with. You know, granted, yeah, it was not the deepest game. I think they could have added way more items, way more things for the ranking system. They could have, you know, but they even did some new things with that, with adding like the fast battles or like the, you know, like the random boss battles that occur in the treasure mode. So I have a lot of faith in Namco. You know, I think they're going to give us something good. I think it'll be decent. I'm not going to say it's going to be as good as like Weapon Master Mode, Soul Calibur 2. That might be the pinnacle of all of this, but it's not going to be Street Fighter 5. I can say that with confidence.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. Well, yeah, I mean, because Namco, I mean, you're talking veteran of veterans, you know. I mean, this is a company that's been around for a long, long time. So, I mean, yeah, there's definitely reason to have some confidence that they're going to do it right. But Soul Calibur is just, I think that Project Soul team has I think they've kind of missed the mark, or kind of had the wrong idea of what fans actually want from the series. You know, with Soul Calibur 5, they really restricted movement in that game, because I think it's something like if you get hit while you're moving, it's a counter hit, and you know, so it really restricted because that was the whole point of Soul Calibur, was running around, you know, 8-way run and everything, and guard impact and all of that, and that game really hampered those aspects of the game and tried to make it more like a, you know, meter based tournament game. And I just don't think that's what people wanted to see out of Soul Calibur. And that isn't Soul Calibur. So hopefully they've learned from their mistakes, and this is going to be, you know, a solid entry, a solid return to form and prominence for the series.
Right. No, I definitely think it will be. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're not going to talk your heads off. We're not going to talk your ears off. We're going to let you get back to playing games or working or driving or doing whatever boring shit it was that you were doing before you started listening to this. So, with that said, I'm Mars Vindicator. This has been Status Quo. And I'm out.
And I'm out too. Queasy Crayfish.
Wait, if I yeah.